Hello, and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. Welcoming to the show, Jefferson Utomo. Welcome to the show, Jefferson.
Thank you so much for having me, B. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, it's an honor to have you on the show. This is like third time lucky, right? I've rescheduled on you two times now, and you've been super adaptive and flexible. So thank you for that. I do appreciate it, especially at this time of the year. Jefferson, you're based out of Jakarta, which is, oh, how far is that from Australia, actually? I don't even know. I can't even remember what the flight is.
It is about, I'd say, about 5 hours out if you
Yeah,
fly from Sydney all the way to Jakarta.
yeah, I've been to Jakarta. So it's a great city. But looking forward to chatting with you because you are quite the, I'm going to say, energizer. And you have, when we met the other week, quite a few weeks ago, the amount of people that you've met and your curiosity and you've got this entrepreneurial spirit was super, I guess, inspiring because you were just like, talking about how if you don't ask, I've abbreviated this, if you don't ask, you don't get. And then you just approach all these people from around the world to understand, what they're doing in business and leadership. And I thought it was truly credible to you just to have that ability to step out into the unknown. But that's obviously not what we're going to talk about today. Or I might talk a little bit about it actually. I'd love you to share probably with the audience, how to approach those sorts of situations and scenarios. But you are currently working with in quite an exciting role. You're a revenue growth officer and you also straddle strategy and business, if you like, in terms of for a company called Amoda, which is right behind us here. We've both got our brands going on. The colors work really well together. I love yellow, by the way. And essentially, what you do is you are solving a problem in the world, and the problem that the business is solving is how do you make construction stress free? So that's a really big problem to solve. And how you're doing that, and I'll let you elaborate and explain it, is it's basically you guys are operating in modular and conventional construction. And the company was established back in 2021. And the role you're playing in the business is you're almost like, well, you're the right hand man to the CEO, the founders. And so you said to me you sit in the CEO office. And your big kind of focus at the moment is revenue growth. You've got two offices in Jakarta. And I think I said the company started back in 2021. So right in the thick of COVID, which is, fascinating.
Yes.
Also, some of you booked into the podcast and I asked you what's one unique insight when it comes to life versus in business. You said having a high pain tolerance is important. And I believe that's a practical aspect in both business leadership and entrepreneurship. I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us a bit about your
Yes.
journey and how you also got into Amoda.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, B. Sorry, I was quite in the background. I wanted to make sure I did not interrupt you in any way. This is, but thank you so much for having me. So quite a barrage of questions over there. I'll try to get through them one by one. Perhaps about my mindset about pain tolerance. It was inspired by a founder that I had met online, actually. He's called, I want to give him a shout out, Cody Roberto. He is the CEO and sole founder of URide, essentially the Grab or Lyft taxi ride hailing company in Canada, where he started when Uber was already there. And I essentially asked him, hey, do you have any time? I'd like to learn from you. Because he was bootstrapped since day one, profitable since day one, $20 million USD in ARR, and just amazing, an amazing person. He said yes. And he said the one piece of advice they could give me to the younger generation is have a high pain tolerance. If you want to make it as an entrepreneur and as a business leader, there's no way around it. There's no silver bullet, right? You have to have high pain tolerance. Things will happen your way and things will not happen your way. Either way, make it work if you have a vision towards it. So that's what inspired me to give that quote to you in the form that you sent out. So thank you so much for mentioning that. About holistically, my mindset when you said that I met a mountain of people, I'm hoping that I can meet a lot more in my life. And I'm also very grateful for a lot of people that I have met before. What inspired me for that is I'm a big fan of another podcast. I'm also a big fan of Bee Formless, but also
Ah,
another podcast based in the US called, yeah, I have to put that brand out there.
thank
Be
you.
Formless, guys. Please give it a watch and like and
I
comment
love it.
and,
Thank
just
you.
interact. He's an awesome person. But yeah, back to the topic, segueing back. I'm a big fan of a podcast called How I Built This. It is by a media company called NPR, and the host is Guy Raz. And in almost every episode, he would say, how much of your success would you attribute to luck and to your own hard work? And the median, probably the average, people would just say, I do believe in luck, but in a way, we pave our own roads that enable that luck to come. So I'd say I would just do things out of pure hard work that would increase the probability of my success in a given situation. So that's what inspired me. If I want to meet new people, if I want to learn new people, if I want to succeed in the venture, then I would just go out of my way, find people. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? 1,000 headcount company, $10 billion company, it all comes down to the people that makes decisions on behalf of that company and the stakeholders. So I think people are very important. And about Amoda itself, if I might share just very briefly, I think everything starts from a hypothesis, right? From a problem statement. What Amoda wants to solve is construction, essentially. It is a 10 trillion plus dollar industry, and we're
Really?
just scratching the surface. Yeah, it's huge. Like, for example, the design industry is just $500 billion, and it made a $40 billion company in Canva, right? So imagine how big it could be in
Yeah.
construction. I mean,
Yeah.
it is one of the oldest pain points in history. Right now, we're trying to build essentially an organic sales engine for one of the biggest traditional industries in the world right now. So yeah, it's a huge challenge. But our problem statement is making commercial construction stress free. Maybe we can go later on towards residential as well, but right now our focus is commercial. So stores, cafes, as well as hospitality. And the main solution that we came up with was modular construction. Yes, we now do conventional construction as well, but back then in 2021, when we first started, modular construction was the single solution that we had in mind to solve our the customer pain point, which was we would own our own supply chain. We would build everything. We would build everything end to end in Indonesia, so we do not outsource from any other country. We own the entire production line from procurement all the way to the end product. So what that means is the quality is maintained. It is fast. We can ship it to the location. We can assemble it in like 6 days, 9 days. If it's huge, it might take a few months. Yeah, but if it's like a 20 meter, 30 meter square structure building, then it would just be very fast, like 9 days, 12 days, 15 days for it to be finalized and ready to use for business. So that's essentially it. My CEO and also a friend of mine, Robin, he made the company back in 2021. So he was in I met him when he was in Stanford. I went to UC San Diego's Ready School of Management. He studied civil engineering in Stanford for his master's degree. And afterwards, he worked in a few companies. They were good jobs. They were great jobs. But then he saw, okay, in the U.S., there are pain points in construction that we need to solve, especially back in my home country, Indonesia. So in 2021, he started out with the hypothesis, immediately got investors because he's just a very high integrity person. And in 2022, I believe he fully migrated back to Indonesia. And then afterwards, the business just took off, like multiple X growth every year. So that's a bit about the business, B. And thank you for the time.
No, thank you. There's so much. Like you thought I was asking you a lot of questions. I've got like even more questions now because you've told quite a few stories in one story that are somewhat all interconnected, right? In terms of, starting back with your, curiosity and your hunger for learning and, even like the whole podcast around how I built this and, success. Is it luck versus is it hard work and having this
Yes.
whole high tolerance, like I think it's having a high pain tolerance, but how do we do it in a more sustainable way these days? So we're not just killing ourselves along the way and having no joy, I think is something that, is really important as we're moving into this new world. And then you also talked around this whole piece of like old world and then this new paradigm that we're moving into and solving, problems that have been around forever in a day, i.e. in construction. And then how do you move construction into this new paradigm and how do you solve for the problems that have existed for a very long time, right? It's super
Yes.
interesting and super fascinating. Where I'd love to start is let's start with, your curiosity and love for learning. Have you always been someone that is constantly like wanting to learn more? Is this about you and I guess the desire to is it self-improvement, but also is it looking at, well, how do we how do we make impact in business? And, by learning different and hearing about different stories, it gives you ideas of
Okay.
what you can bring into the business, for example, into Amoda.
Okay. Okay, for sure. Thank you, B. So I understand two parts of the segment. One is when it all started, and two is how do you bring this kind of personality into Amoda. So maybe the first question first that I like to tackle is back when I was in college and under, so junior high, high school, college. I think I had a regular mindset. If I would succeed, then I would be happy. If I didn't succeed, then I would just okay, sort of just be passive with it. But after college, I thought to myself, okay, I am going to go to the real world after this. I have to be productive because this is my chance for the next few decades to establish my own generational legacy, whatever it may be. And so I thought to myself, okay, I see these people around me, and these are
Hmm.
definitely people that are smarter than I am. But one common thread that I have seen is that they do not necessarily have an extreme level of talent in their field. It's just that they do not give up. They have a vision, they set the action items, and they just do it until it works. So that's what I implemented for myself. So after
Love that.
college, after graduating, in all of the jobs, and just I wanted to be an entrepreneur, either in a career or in an actual business. So yeah, that's something about me. And second part about Amoda is so essentially in Amoda, we are based in Indonesia, right? Um, every country has different cultures. In Indonesia, people are usually we are very respectful towards authority. So that's why I was also that's also why I didn't interrupt you in any way. I wanted to be sure I was respectful. It's kind of like how we are wired. If you meet someone more senior, or if you meet someone who seems more experienced, then give them the spotlight and just respect them. So that's essentially how Indonesians are, and that's very good. But right now, we're a high growth company, right? Every year, since we're venture backed by multiple investors from Indonesia and abroad as well, we need to prove revenue growth, right, as a
Yeah.
B2B business. And so we can't just wait for it. So what we are doing now is we're doing a lot of sort of outbound, building our sales engine and just exploring proliferation in different markets. So it could be in Singapore, Australia, Canada, US. We've gotten contacts, we've gotten leads, and we're trying to make this work, either distribution networks or just individual buyers that want to buy, for example, 10 units, 20 units of construction of constructed buildings. So we're trying to get into it. So for me, my role, I believe, is sort of to be that go-getter, sort of to be that person that does not fear failure. Because yeah, once we explore markets outside of Indonesia, it is going to be quite hectic, and there's going to be risk involved as well, right? Every country, I read, I think a few days ago, how a lot of China brands are going into Southeast Asia, for example, and they found three major problems. I believe it's logistics, it's talent pool, and its regulations. And it's also going to be like that in for us going outside towards other countries as well, right? The regulations are different, the talent pool, and especially the price of overhead is different. And lastly, also sort of the products will be different too. So I wanted to just go out there, have a hypothesis, meet with, for example, 5 contacts, see if 2 of them are actually serious and have the proper resources that could make this project work, and then go back to our company and just produce the products that were purchased. That's essentially it. Just taking that calculated risk and securing that hypothesis proof, and then just making that project work and commercialize.
Do you think that your confidence in taking calculated risks has evolved and grown from all the different, I guess, people that you talk to, and that you've actually, like the guy you reached out through from Canada, do you think that your confidence and listening to other founder stories and entrepreneurs has enabled you to go, all right, I have to take calculated risks because that's the only way, we're going to succeed as a business? Like, do you know what I mean? Like if you sit still and don't do anything and just wait, this comes back to luck, right? If you just wait for things to happen, they quite often don't happen. You have to
Yes.
be, you have to be bouncing forward. You have to be actively, putting yourself out there. What comes up for me a lot, and I talk a lot about this in my business and working with, leaders and businesses as well, is stepping into the unknown, being open-minded, having the courage to do so. We're living in a world that, we're talking about next year, but like if we look at this year, for example, and reflect on 2025, I'm sure, like you, it's very different at the start of 2025 to what I anticipated or expected it to be now. And so no, no day is the same. And so the more we've got this ability to have these calculated risks, especially when we're in business, it's the scaling as such, because we've got to pivot and we've got to adapt, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I'd say, from my point of view, I think one mindset that is very important for me is, it doesn't matter if what our personality is. We could be an introvert or we could be an extrovert, but bad communication is not an excuse based on personality. Like for me, I'm not that much of an extrovert. I'm actually more introverted, I
I was going
feel.
to say, I
Like
bet you are. I bet you are.
yeah, I would evade a lot of negative social interactions, just normal social interactions. But when it comes down to, okay, I'm meeting this person, then I have to give my A game, right? Like it's not an excuse for bad communications. I would just assess, okay, how would people actually succeed in any given social interaction? Okay, what's the KPI? Is it people smiling? Is it people laughing? Is it people want to exchange contacts afterwards? And then I would just learn from that. I would learn from people better than I am, and I would implement it in the same situation. And yeah, I do agree with you. I think we have to go out of our way to make sort of luck be relevant enough to make us succeed, right? If we just stay in our room all day and we don't explore new opportunities, we don't grow our career, we don't talk with our friends, then connect us to other people as well. It's just going to be, I feel it's going to be a dead end, especially for our age. We're productive, right? So I
Yeah.
just try to remind myself that every week you have to be productive, you have to meet new people, and in that new people conversation, you have to learn new things as well, because a lot of these different people have domain expertise in their own industry. And a lot of the times, if we are respectful and appreciative enough, they are actually reciprocating with that kind of positive energy as well. So almost no one actually gives us arrogance in return. They just give us the same level of respect that we did. So yeah, it's just something that I learned along the way. I believe personally, you may debate me on this, B, but I genuinely believe that every single human being that God has created is smart. Some people might say might condescend people. I don't. I believe every single human being is smart enough to know when someone is being genuine and when someone is not being genuine. So I just try to be genuine all the time because I am genuinely curious, right? And that's led to me meeting a lot of people throughout my life so far.
Yeah, I know I couldn't agree more. I think it's genuinely having that genuine integrity as well. Like, I do think that we've all got this capability to be smart. And I think quite often we're judged because, everyone's got different strengths. We all play to our different strengths.
Yes.
That's why I
Yeah.
hate calling out strengths and weaknesses because I just think weaknesses is really, derogative of people when actually that's just not what they're strong at. So why would you keep pushing someone to do something that is not their strongest spot? And instead, why not focus on what they're mastering, what they can master, right? So like mastery is, continuing to work on it, continuing to prove it, like improve it, I should say. Like for you, like, you're like this go-getter, you're this revenue growth officer, you're talking about all these different countries that you're looking for the business to scale into, if you like, or go into. I can't think of the right word right now. But so that takes mastery. You don't just become a sales revenue, growth officer straight away. You're learning from the best. Then you're putting your unique style around it to then have your own kind of way of doing it. I think it's when we try and be someone else and not be our true authentic selves, our genuine true authentic selves, is when things can get unstuck.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah, it's
agree. I agree.
yeah. Do you?
Yeah. I feel in a way, holistically, it is also about going outside of our comfort zone, right? And taking that calculated risk. I mean, of course, we cannot downplay our strengths. I think a lot of books say, okay, after a certain age, it is almost decided what a certain human being will be good at, right? I don't agree with it fully, but yes, I do agree that some people have talent in certain things, right? Like you might be talented in A, I may be talented in B, and so on. But we have to go out of our comfort zone so we can expand on it, right? If we just depend on one trick all the time, it's like playing sports, like in basketball or in tennis. Like in tennis, if you only depend on your backhand and you have a weak forehand, a weak serve, then it's just going to bite you in the back, right? You cannot win in any sport. So I feel like that's the same way. Try to expand the horizon. Some you might find some strengths, you might find some weaknesses, go back, regroup, and just find, okay, what's gonna happen next. Because if the only risk in that failure is just wasting time, there's no money involved or reputation involved, and I feel like we have nothing to lose, right? To grow beyond it.
No, I couldn't agree more. I love this conversation. Tell me, you talked around the Indonesian culture and respectful of more people with more experience, elders, etc. I want to come back to the construction sector industry, if you like. It's quite an old, I won't say old
Process.
school, but it's an old world, like there's a
Yes,
lot
yeah,
of, set in our ways of how we do business, set in our ways of how we do construction.
yes.
And you're basically, the business is coming in. Amoda feels like a real challenger brand, if you like, a real challenger business coming in to disrupt the market and to bring it into the new paradigm. It's interesting that you talk about, how respectful you are of more senior people or, people with more lived experience. What generation are you in, by the way? What generation are you, by the way?
I was born in '98. I'm a Gen Z, I
Yeah, so
believe.
you're as
Early
you're
Gen Z, early Gen Z.
yes, and it's obvious. And what am I? I'm born in 77, so I think am I a millennial Xer? I'm on the cusp of and so I'm a lot older than you, but at the end of the day, I'm learning a lot from people like you, the Gen Zers, the alphas of the world, and I do think there's this opportunity to really kind of bring the new and the more wiser experience or more lived experience in business together. Do you, with the founders that you work with and the owners of the company, do you feel like you get that opportunity to bring your new ideas in? Like, how do you work with the founders knowing that, you're so respectful and it's so part of your Indonesian culture and like, how does it work? Like, do you feel that this is not a loaded question, for example, but you've got all these great ideas. You've got you're learning so much. Like, how does that work in a motor? Are you doing it a bit differently in terms of are you know, shaking up the culture in terms of in the business, in terms of bringing younger experience from a Gen Z to now, like, or are all the founders around the same age as you?
Okay, thanks. Thank you for asking, B. So at Amoda, we have two co-founders called Robin and Bojes. Bojes, I believe, is a bit older. I think he's probably, I think he was born in somewhere around the '80s. The founder that I'm closer with is called Robin. He's our CEO and co-founder, and he was born around '93. So he's about 5 years older than I am. So yeah, the culture, I think, is intertwined with that aspect as well. And to holistically conclude in Amoda, the culture is prove it. So if you have an idea, prove it. We are very flat, almost no hierarchy, even though we're quite big. We're more than 100 people right now in terms of our head count. I think it all stems from, at least from what I've seen in Robin, right? He's actually a large part why I joined Amoda in the first place. So years ago, he recruited me out of the blue. He asked me out towards a cafe, and then I think on a weekend, and then afterwards he tried to recruit me, and then I just knew then that he was setting this all up just to recruit me. I thought it was just like a friendly convo, right? And so I said, dude, I'm so sorry. I signed a contract with this unicorn tech company in Indonesia. I can't back out. Like it was that transition phase in my career. And he was like, "Oh shoot, okay." So like for a year, I just worked in a tech company. It was all safe and all good, like those big tech companies
Yeah.
with very big campus buildings, and you get lunch every day for free. And then afterwards, I then reconnected with Robin, and he said, "Dude, do you want to help out with Amoda? I think we're doing something great." And I looked at the company, and especially I looked at the founder, just like any VC or any private equity would. Just look at the founder, and I thought, okay, this person is a high integrity, high work ethic person. And once I saw him in the company, oh yeah, my conclusion was correct. He works incredibly hard, and he's very fair towards everyone. So yeah, every day he is in the office. He would literally position himself just like any other employee, just like any other even junior level employee. He would sit at the same table. If someone had to sit there for a meeting, he would just move his back out of the way and move tables, just a kind of humility. And whenever he would have an idea, he would go out and prove it, and then people would see it. And whenever, if, and leaders sometimes have to scold people, right? Sometimes the KPIs are not matched and you have to scold people as a leader. he would scold people and everyone will listen because everyone in the company knows that, okay, if he has said something, it means he has done it and he has proven that it can work. So proof is a large part of our culture. You want anything, prove it. That's why I'm trying to prove it right now too. I believe for the vision of how big Amoda can become, we it is feasible, but we need international exposure as well, which we are starting to get right now too. And yeah, that is something that I'm trying to prove whenever I have leads, meetings, and even later on revenue and deals. I'll bring it back to him and we can formulate the strategy in terms of how our sales engine can work in a global scale. So that's essentially my perspective.
Yeah, I love that. So good. Proof. It's such a good one because it actually leads me to my next question around I want to go back to construction and stress free and understanding a little bit more about this modular conventional construction. If we're thinking about if we put our new world paradigm on, our hat on, what's been like talk me through a little bit around why has construction been so stressful? Is it like am I in the most basic term, is it because it's like building, commercial, buildings, etc., is stressful. Like building in itself, any kind of whether it's residential or commercial, can be quite stressful. Like there's all these different, you know, people involved, etc. What is it like? What when you say that you want to, your business is here to make construction stress free from a commercial perspective? What's the stress? What's the
Okay.
tension point?
Okay. Thanks for asking me. So I feel it's always best to operate in a field that is not commoditized, right? The materials that we use, steel, aluminum, stone, plastic, they are all commodities, right? And it all depends on just the supplier we buy it from. But the overall the finished product that we give is not commoditized. I believe we are the biggest modular construction player in Indonesia, and I think we give one of the best services as well right now, and perhaps even the whole world scale. Because a lot of the modular construction players, for example, in the US, they focus on residential, whereas we focus on commercial because we believe that commercial can be scaled more rapidly in our belief right now. But we'll see in the future how the markets align. But yeah, essentially, we try not to focus on the commodity, which is the material itself, but the service that we give overall.
Okay, cool. And thank you for that. That makes sense. But tell me a little bit about like obviously since COVID's kicked in, like there's hybrid work models, there's all these different ways that we do business now. And there's people working remotely, people working doing a hybrid model where they're working from home, etc. Are you noticing any trends in the construction or the commercial side of, kind of business, if you like, that it has also somewhat informed Amoda's business model as well? Like, are you seeing less commercial buildings being built for, say, office space, or are you seeing more and more, but just different modulars, that sort of thing? I don't know. I'm trying to ask a question here that you might go, that's not part of what we do, sort of thing. But I'd love your thoughts on that.
Okay. Thank you, B. And perhaps, sorry, I wanted to add on towards your previous question as well, and thank you for asking it too. So I know that right now the biggest thing trending is AI, right? A lot
Yeah.
of companies, especially in the US and Canada, maybe even Australia as well, the focus is AI. Just AI is solving a lot of problems right now. It's also heavily commercialized, so the serviceable, addressable market for any company tackling any kind of AI solution is just huge, right? For construction, it's traditional, as you mentioned, so maybe not a lot of younger people know about it. Maybe people that know about it are people in their 60s or 50s, right?
Yeah.
People that have that sort of exposure. So I just wanted to segue towards that topic as well. I think the main reason why the industry is sort of it's been traditional in a sense is because it's very talent related. It's very talent related because even contractors in a way are commodities in themselves. So it just depends on word of mouth. Okay, I know this contractor from a friend or from a family member. I'll just use them. And if they have bad service or if they even, for example, like run away with a project or they're not responsible, then I'll just find a new contractor. That's essentially it. And we saw that, okay, we cannot just let it be like that. We have to make sure that one, we are a credible, responsible sort of contractor. And two, you are actually given a product that is controlled end to end in the supply chain, that is executed faster, that you don't have to wait for 6 months to be built, so that you can start your business and your rent is not due too long after the building has just been finished. So that's essentially it. Like, we want to make sure that it's no longer a commoditized talent pool only focused industry, but also just overall a more fun industry to be in. Um, and right now, I think the trend is, I think in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta, Jakarta is, I correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's responsible for more than 70% of the whole country's GDP at the moment. It's just a very centralized, strong city where a lot of big players are playing in. Um, a lot of businesses are still expanding rapidly. I know there's news reports everywhere, like in Hong Kong, every week more than 100 restaurants are closing in. Old family brick and mortar stores are closing, which is pretty sad. In Indonesia, we see still a lot of people still trying to make new businesses, mostly cafes, F&B stores, usually for fashion, and a lot of people own plots of land that then they want to build villas on top of, and that's all of that have shown that there's still a large market in Indonesia alone. But yeah, every culture is different, right? I've heard every culture is different. We're just trying to find different nations outside of Indonesia that maybe can trust us faster and build larger scale projects. For example, if you want to build a build a 200,000 US dollar project in Indonesia, I mean, that's decent size already. But if you want to make something of that scale in a country abroad, they wouldn't mind going up, for example, to a million or 2 million or $3 million in just the overall budget. Of course, with a larger size as well. But that spending power is there, and that's something that we're trying to tackle as well.
Yeah, it sounds like
Yeah,
you're on.
that's what I've learned so far. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it sounds like you're on a real mission. Two final questions for you. You're a real go-getter, and coming back to culture, but also you in particular, being a high performer, are you okay? Do you need a glass of water?
No, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, how do you switch off? How do you make sure that you are get able to have that time out so that you talked around earlier, introvert, when you're having to be an extrovert or you are, putting yourself out there in the unknown, it can get quite exhausting because I'm an extro intro is what I call it. Like I have to come back into like recharge myself and re-energize myself. What are you doing to ensure that given you're only, you're a Gen Zer and you've no doubt, going places, absolutely. What are you doing to ensure that you're actively recovering and, reducing that cognitive load, giving yourself a chance to reset, recharge, to come back fresh with new
Okay.
ideas?
Okay. Thank you, B. Because I understand, as we all do, creating a business from 0 to 1 and then scaling it afterwards is hard, right? It's like what Y Combinator said. The point is to build a great product and scale it, not build a scalable product and make it great. So you have to start with the product first, with the business first, and then you have to scale it afterwards with all of the operational infrastructure involved. For me, who conceptually it's about believing in the business. So I believe in the founders. I believe in how the company is tackling a real customer pain point. It's not just a startup that got money from investors. It is a startup that is legitimately trying to tackle something huge, and people are reciprocating with positive feedback around it. So I'd say we're getting closer towards product market fit. So I think that's something that energizes me a lot. I think at a granular level, outside of work, I just try to get it as much. For me, I do not like things that are not productive, so I try to rewind with just spending time with quality time with people I care about, with my girlfriend, my family, my close friends, her family. And sports is a huge thing for me. So now tennis, I used to play basketball, and now I just run, do calisthenics, pull-ups, and just play tennis. So that's something that rewinds me a bit, because even in that recreational phase, I still feel productive. I still get those endorphins and dopamines in, and I still just feel energized and fit for the next day. So that's essentially it for me.
Yeah, I love it. And then last question, what do you think, knowing we're heading into 2026 and, it's going to continue to rapidly go faster and faster. What do you think are the key three traits a leadership of tomorrow, a leadership of 2026, a leader of 2026, I shouldn't say leadership, a leader of 2026 needs?
Okay. I'd say my top three are, and again, it's subjective. I could be wrong, but this is just how I view it.
No
One
one's wrong.
is, again, a high pain tolerance, because I don't think any entrepreneur can succeed without a high pain tolerance. Things are gonna fail at times, and you just have to power through it and find a solution. One is high pain tolerance. Two is humility, because you have to learn. No leader goes into an industry knowing 100% what they need to do. That's why they hire VPs and C suites from other areas, right, to complement their own skill sets. Second is humility, and third is also I'd say, which is sort of hard to balance with number two, but I'd say it's still equally important, is an unwavering conviction for what's to come. They really have to believe that it's going to be a big thing, because if they do not believe, then it's going to be very hard to convince the 100 to 1,000 to 2,000 people under him or her that it's going to work, and things are going to go. Things are not going to go your way. So high pain tolerance, humility, and high conviction as well. I think those three combined can create a very powerful human being.
Yeah, I love that. The unwavering, it's amazing. That unwavering conviction of what's to come, just
Yeah.
believing in what you're doing and believing that you're here to make that impact and trailblaze your way into the continue into this new paradigm. And
Yes.
you asked me a lot of questions the other week, which I loved. You wanted to meet me and I was like, this is awesome. And you were asking me all these different questions. Is there anything that you haven't asked me that you'd like to ask me now as I'm handing the final question over to you?
Okay. Well, maybe I can close out the segment with the question that Guy Raz always asks on NPR. You have achieved a level of success in your own life as well. How much of it would you attribute to luck, and how much of it would you attribute to your own individual hard work?
Oh gosh. I think there's a time and a
Yeah, tough
place.
one, right?
I think there's a time and a place, right? I do think there is. And, a friend of mine who passed away earlier this year, I remember vividly, she said to me, no one's destined for anything. And it got me at the time, but I actually do think that that may not be necessarily like you're destined to do this and that's it, because everything can change. But I think, absolutely hard work. Like, I relate to, did I get the best high school scores? No, but I worked damn hard. And it wasn't because I didn't try. I just wasn't the smartest person in the school. And yet instead, I've always been someone that's always persevered. I've always had this unwavering conviction that, put the effort in, understand, ask the questions why. So, but then there's been moments where, call it luck, where it was a moment, I was in the right moment at the right time, and then this opportunity came about. And then I had to work hard again to continue to.
Yeah.
So I think it's a mix, if that makes sense, in terms of, and so that's where for me, you get to almost shape what what something can look like, and you get to reshape it, and so that's where really the Bee Formless, because it's shaping it, but then you get a chance to reshape it again, and then depending on being in the right moment at the right time, serendipitously, I can never, you know what I'm trying to say here. Luck
Yeah,
can
yeah, I do.
sometimes come into play, but if it comes back to, if we
Yes.
just sat here and just waited for luck to happen to us all the time, well, it's not going to happen. You
Yes.
have to have the
Yeah.
gumption, you have to have the ability. So hopefully that's answered your question. But I'd say it's probably 80%, 70, 80, 90% really like just being conscientious, integrity, hardworking, believing, even when I don't believe in myself, like when I haven't believed in myself, just having this ability to believe and just go, no, I know intuitively something here is right. And then, probably 15, 20% luck.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems, right? Like what Atomic Habits quoted. I think
Yeah.
that sums up what you and I believe in. We have to give our 110% every time consistently, and then 20% of the time, luck will come in and give us those big opportunities, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's being in the right
Yeah.
moment, the right time. But I will say one thing, and I do want to caveat it because I did it the wrong way. And I worked hard and hard and hard and hard and hard and reached the top of my game, but I burnt out along the way. And then I had to rebuild myself from the bottom up. And I really just want to be conscious to all the audience and the listeners out there that hard does not mean hustle. Hard means the having that ability to work and but also live and also lead in a way that is true to you. And so I always ask around, how are you looking after you? How are you actively recovering? How are you getting your reset and your recharging? Because it's not possible just to work hard and hard and hard and hard and hard and think that you're not going to hit rock bottom, which is what I did. So there's a different way to do life. There's a different way to lead. There's a different way to do business. And I think that is what this new paradigm is about. And if you can get that right, the opportunities are endless. So that's how I would love to finish it. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. Thank you so much for your piece of wisdom, B.
No, thank you, Jefferson. Okay, so how do we find out more about Amoda? And then how do we find out more about Jefferson?
Okay. Thank you so much. So two parts to that question. Amoda is on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on TikTok. We are spelled Amoda. We have our own website. Just check Amoda on Google. It's going to be the first yellow logo company that pops up. And for me, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on yeah, I think LinkedIn is usually the best place to follow me. I've seen a lot of these podcast guests too, and they always say LinkedIn. So I would like to copy paste that and just say LinkedIn too. So yeah, Jefferson Anugrah Utomo or Jefferson Utomo would be good. I'm helping at Amoda, and you can spot me on the first keyword that pops up.
Thanks, Jefferson. Wow, what a conversation. That's a good one. This has been a great conversation. I really loved your energy and I felt the vibes and the color combinations. Like I said, yellow is my favorite color. And obviously, well, purple, I should say purple, yellow, and greens are my favorite colors. But Jefferson, wishing you and Amoda continued success heading into 2026 and taking on the global stage, but also wishing you a very happy end to the year and holidays.
Yeah, I wish Bee Formless and the entire audience a great journey ahead as you build your own generational legacy, which
Thank
sounds pretty cool, right? And I hope you close out 2025 strong, have a harmonious Christmas over, and I hope your New Year's can be filled with a lot of optimism going forward because we're gonna be stronger than ever, guys. So
Yeah,
thank you, everyone.
the year of the horse. So thank you. Thanks, Jefferson.
Yeah,
Take care and love what you're doing in life, leadership, and business. Thank you.
thank you so much, B. See you next time.
See you.